So Dakillzor recently made a tier list for World of Tanks.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
But then something happened that sent shockwaves through the World of Tanks community.
215B, I love this thing. It could do with a little bit of an armor improvement, but I think this is very good. The gun is just so good.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
And I finished watching the video without anything else, objections to anything, and I thought that was the end of it. Until the next day, Dacky posted this.
Hello, gamers. If you remember well, I made a tier list. Now, when I made the tier list, I got quite a few comments with the remark of Daki, my man, 215B, good? In what world is the 215B good? Well, today I'm going to show you in what world the 215B is good, because it is in this world. Alright.
This has got me now questioning everything I thought I knew in World of Tanks. Is it possible that I'm wrong? That a whole community is wrong? These are the questions I'm now asking myself. And I believe I know what my mission should be. I need to do a deep dive into this tank and answer the important questions. Does the gun alone make up for the platform? Is it good? Is it bad? Or is it very good like Dacky says? Join me as I do a deep dive. But first, I need to make sure I'm in peak physical condition before I take on this challenge.
I'm ready. Let's do this.
So, hopping on Tanks GG, what I've decided to do is compare this tank to some of the better tier 10s that are currently in the game, the Super Conch, the Object 260, the Object 277. I've chosen the E100 because it is a super heavy and the FV215B is considered a super heavy. And you have the T110E5. First thing that you'll notice is, yes, Dacky is correct. The gun is amazing in basically every single way. It has the best DPM. It has basically average penetration for APCR rounds. It's below the 240 heat pins the 340 heat pins that you see out of some of the Russian heavies and the 110E5, but it easily beats out the E100, which only has 311. From rate of fire, good. Shell velocity, it's APCR. Very, very good. Same basic gun as the Super Conch, though you do get better aim time, equal dispersion. You do fire better on the move than you do on the Super Conch, but as you can see, best in class in basically every way. The gun is truly amazing. From a mobility standpoint, it's basically the same or very close to the same as the Super Conch. You get to the fights. I do feel like this thing feels more sluggish sometimes than the Super Conch. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but because the terrain resistance is, well, part of it is the engine power is actually a little bit higher in the Super Conch, but still, not a whole lot. It does get you to the battle, but if you're trying to chase damage against some of the faster heavies, you're going to struggle. Whole armor, it looks okay on paper. We're going to look at it, the 3D model, and kind of take a judge for ourselves, and I'm going to show you some of the weaknesses of this tank, and if you do see it in the battle, why you shouldn't necessarily be afraid of it. Hit points wise, it's really healthy tank. It's a chunky boy. 2,920 if you have a bounty hardening on it, but less than the E100, but still better than the other tanks that I have at least picked for this. So all that being said, yeah, the gun is amazing. But let's take a look at the 3D model. Okay, so looking at the 3D model, I want to show a few things of why I think this tank struggles a lot in the current meta. And like it or not, the current meta is hold down heavy tank. It is what it is. So can this thing hold down? Well, you start looking at it here and you're like, it's 340. There's a couple of little spots in there, but it says auto ricochet. And then you see this. And basically, all through the gun mantlet is a big area that you can pin. And you might hit outside of it, but oh my gosh, that's not a good sign. Um, a lot of areas of this mantlet, standard rounds can actually pin from a lot of tanks. If you hit some of these, like 247 right in there, popped up 250. Most tier 10 tanks have above 250 standard pin, but if they're firing premium rounds, they're pretty much guaranteed to go through the mantlet of this tank. Also, the cupola of this tank seems to be easier to hit than the Super Conch. I don't know why. They look the same on paper, but this one seems to get pinned a lot more than the Super Conch. So I know what some of you are saying. Weedle, the turret's mounted in the rear. It's meant to side scrape, not hold down as much. Well, as soon as you side scrape, you present them this area, and yeah, they're going to go right through that, even with standard ammunition. Very easy pin. Even if they fired just a little high and missed high, they'd pin the mantlet right here. So that wouldn't be very good either. The one thing you really need to be careful about is getting shot in the lower plate. This thing likes to be set on fire. Now, when I'm playing this tank, I run the experimental hardening on it to give me that extra 50% durability for internal modules. It helps a lot. But if you're not running that kind of equipment on this tank, you might as well rename your crew members to barbecued 1, 2, 3, and 4, because that's pretty much what's going to happen. I got some replays that I'm going to show you where this thing gets into certain situations, where it excels, and where does it struggle. And I'm going to just give you all some tips for it if you do want to take this thing out in the battlefield. Okay, so I'm going to do these replays a little differently. One, I just don't want to bore you with a full game replay, but I do want to show you how I'm having to deal with certain terrain and situations I find myself in this tank, to both show you the DPM, the gun handling, but also where the platform really holds you back. And first up, we have kind of a ridgeline here. I don't usually find myself up here in my heavy tanks as much, but in this battle I did. And we're going to see a little bit of the gun handling. I was trying to blind fire that E1 bush over there just to see if he's over there. There is a TD. There's almost always a TD over there for some reason. I don't particularly find it to be an amazing spot, but I can see why they do play it if teams are really poking this hill. Right here you can easily see the gun handling here. Quick aim time. Yeah, the gun works. Dacky is correct. But also, the armor doesn't. Now, I want you to picture if I was in like a 705A or VKK, Panzerkampf 7, all those are rear-mounted turreted tanks, and this round from this TD right here, honestly, at that angle, would probably bounce me if I was in any of the other tanks. But not this one, because the armor just doesn't hold up. So, how do I have to try to deal with this ridgeline? Normally, in a tank, I would just kind of come over to this corner if I had gun depression and use it, but as you see, because of the turret being rear mounted, I'm having to awkwardly use the terrain here just to shoot down on this tank. And yeah, I mean, you can do it. The gun handling's great. One issue about having a 400 alpha gun is sometimes you just low roll just enough to let a tank live. But now that he's kind of pushed back, I don't really have to worry about tanks pushing up the hill. I'm going to go help my mouse down here, and going to show you some of the side scraping on this. And what I found when I'm side scraping on this tank in actual play, some people know how to pin it, and some people just don't know how to shoot a side scrape tank. But you get to see some of the DPM here, and that's really the one saving grace I think that really helps this tank. Is it's kind of rare to see in a battle, and there's a lot of players that just aren't really aware of the weaknesses of it. But as you see the tortoise right there, I think I was side scraped pretty good. Still just went into the side of that weak spot. So just be aware it's not difficult to do. Okay, now that that's cleaned up, my team's pushing forward. I'm moving up, trying to support them. I mean, easily able to hit that shot firing on the move. Remember when we were looking at that on Tanks GG? This tank's basically best of its class firing on the move. And it shows in a lot of matches. Easily able to finish off this DS5. Yeah, the gun handling is absolutely fantastic. But here's another issue that you have. the engine power of this tank just really isn't that great. And this is with a turbo. I have a Bounty turbo on this tank right now. And 12, 11, 10 kilometers trying to get up this little hill. It's not particularly, it's not good. All I gotta say, the mobility sometimes is an issue. Get a little fortunate. I was not expecting that guy to be aiming at me, and it's fortunate he missed. But look at this DPM right here. Absolutely great. In this battle, my team didn't really push the correct flank, and they're getting really aggressive using their numbers. I try to set up, fall back to a more defensible location, and I'm going to show you the issues I have with the turret, because it just doesn't hold up. But you also get to see a little bit of the gun handling right here, and obviously their team's not going to be that afraid of me, but yeah, look at this. Boom. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But here we go, the E100. Get loaded. Look at that, right through the gun mantlet right there. I run into this problem a lot on this tank. Anytime I have to fight these hold down positions and tanks know that they can pin the gun mantlet, they just do so. The saving grace is a lot of times people don't know to shoot the gun mantlet, which, I mean, to me is kind of weird because this tank's been in the game a long time, but also you don't see it in the match. And unless you were an OG player, you might not be too familiar with it, but unfortunately they miss. And this is pretty much how you just deal with it. And look at that. There's the fire. Ugh. I can only think their attitude when they were coming after me was something like this.
It's mine, you understand? Mine! All mine! Get back in there! Down, down, down! Go, go, go! Mine, mine, mine!
Okay, so in this match, normally when I looked at that lineup, I'd probably want to go to the left and fight in Tank Alley on the one line. But at the same time, I'm probably not going to beat those tanks in that close of a duel if they know how to pin my tank. So, and it's all a hold down fight over there. So I decided to go hill, and let's see how that kind of works for me. But again, you're going to get to see me trying to fight around some awkward angles that aren't necessarily ideal for this tank. So my team actually took the hill for once. I get up here and I get a little bit extra. This is going to work a lot better for me, at least. But you can see some of the gun handling here. Again, if this tank knows how to pin me, he's going to be able to do so. It's simple. You can't hold down in this thing if people know how to shoot at your tank. But, I mean, as you can see, laser gun. Easily able to finish him off. So, once I get the chance, I kind of push up on this hill. And, obviously what I'm wanting to do is kind of support my heavies as they're kind of pushing out their tanks. Can't really seem to get an angle to do so. So, what I decided to do is kind of rotate around this hill. And just fast forward it a little bit. I decided I'm going to try to flank some of the, I can showcase this gun handling all day, its snapshot ability. It just works really well. And from here, I'm going to just dive down this hill and engage him, but I take a bad angle. And luckily, I'm a healthy tank, and 900 damage, or 1900 damage didn't kill me. 1954, actually. Nice driving. But from here, I'm just going to try to, well, what's left of me, push around and just flank their tanks. It does take me a minute to get over here, but these are just kind of heads-up plays that you're going to have to be doing if you're going to find success in this tank. And it can be quite frustrating, honestly, to get this tank to work sometimes. So what are my final thoughts? Is this a very good tank? Is it a good tank? Is it bad? Or is it just playable? Here's the thing. There is no way anybody in their right mind would say this is a very good tank. If you're trying to compare this thing to a Super Conk, an Object 260, a VKK, 60 TP, those are very good tanks. This is not in the same ballpark as those. I wouldn't even say this thing's good because the armor just holds it back, and it doesn't have like the mobility of like a 50B or the burst of a 50B. Yes, it's got DPM, but you have to find work to get yourself into those situations, and then hope that the enemy team doesn't know how to deal with you. But as you saw in those little clips of replays, uh, you run across players that are knowledgeable enough to know just shoot through the mantlet, or just not be that afraid of the armor. Shoot through the little area here as you're trying to side scrape. Um, I wouldn't waste my bonds on this tank. It's not that enjoyable. Even, you know, I run the survival suite here, the tier 3 survival suite. It it fixes a lot of the fire issues. When I didn't have that on this tank, I was getting set on fire probably 1 in every 10 games at least. Like I said, you could rename your crew members to barbecue. Um, I wouldn't waste my bonds on this. I would spend it on another tank, a reward tank, or heck, even some bond equipment. It would all be a better use of your bonds than this monstrosity. Uh, if you have it in your garage, yeah, sure, take it out every now and then, enjoy it. I have a lot of good games in this tank, and if I'm being really sweaty, I can even make the situations where it's not in a favorable position still work because the gun is good enough to do that. But again, I have to actually sweat in it to do that, so I would pass on this one. If you have the opportunity, I wouldn't spend my bonds, and that's it for this one, guys. I will see y'all next time, and if you like the channel, please subscribe, and good luck.